We have been talking about privacy assessments in the last few days. In this video, we are going to understand the relationship between PIA, DPIA, TIA and LIA. Let's start. Welcome to my YouTube channel where you daily see a new content on data privacy, and as I said, we are going to talk about the relationship between PIA, DPIA, TIA and LIA in this particular video. So what are privacy assessments? A systematic approach that you should take to assess your projects before processing data or whenever there is a change in any processing rule, so that you are clear or you are able to understand what are the risks while processing and how can you mitigate them. The assessment should get you the answers on how to mitigation as well, so that you can be careful about handling that data and implement the best practices around compliance and avoiding breach from your data, and therefore avoiding the market reputation, customer trust as well as the penalties from your regulators. So under this, we talked about four types of assessments: the PIA, Privacy Impact Assessment; DPIA, the Data Protection Impact Assessment; the Privacy Impact Assessment specific to a particular project, like you're starting a new CRM tool or getting into a new app, then you can have a look at the PIA or the Privacy Impact Assessment methodology. If you are processing high risk data, then you should look at DPIA, the Data Protection Impact Assessment, sensitive data, high risk data. If you are transferring data across the border to a different nation, then you should do a TIA or Transfer Impact Assessment, because you need to be making sure that your data that travels across from your location to another country is safe, secure and follows the regulations of the destination country as well. And then you have Legitimate Impact Assessment or LIA, where you need to justify the legitimate interests. We already have some content on legitimate interest in our videos, and we'll cover that once again later once the PIA subject is completed. It's like saying that I want to process your personal data, but I do not have time required, or I cannot wait for your consent. Why I can't wait for your consent is that the processing is very important. It's in public interest. It could be a research subject, it could be a healthcare research, it could be monitoring the individual's behavior, monitoring terror attacks, anything, right? So these are the four kind of assessments. And how are they interrelated? So we said PIA, the Privacy Impact Assessment, the one that you do on a specific project to understand the risk associated with that project. Now that project could be any kind of processing, could be processing the salaries inside a small organization, even in a large organization. So within HR you have resume processing, your payroll processing. So processing any of these things as a project, and you should do a Privacy Impact Assessment, whereas DPIA is specific in nature. It is required when you are processing sensitive data or when you are processing high risk data. So if you are processing healthcare records of a lot of patients, biometric records of your security teams and related people, then you should do a DPIA, the Data Protection Impact Assessment, right? So a DPIA could be a subset of PIA. Both are assessments, both are looking at the impact or the risk associated, but DPIA is specific to looking at when you are handling sensitive and high risk processing data. Then you come to TIA, the Transfer Impact Assessment. Again, PIA is purely internal. You are looking at your own processes and seeing how you can mitigate the risks, if any, right? How can you meet the compliances? When it comes to transferring data outside, especially outside your country, then you do Transfer Impact Assessment. What is the kind of security on the network that is available? What are the kind of rules that the other country has? How are you able to meet those regulatory requirements? Do you have contractual obligations? If you are available in different countries, what kind of binding corporate rules you have that the data of your employees in one country is being handled by employees of another country, right? So again, like DPIA, TIA is also very, very specific, but TIA is specific to transferring data across the border, where DPIA is specific to processing highly sensitive, the PIA is the overall umbrella on top of it. And then we come to LIA, Legitimate Interest. So you want to monitor the public behavior, you want to do a healthcare research, then the way to do that is doing a Legitimate Interest Assessment. Legitimate Interest Assessment says you don't have a consent, but you still have to maintain privacy, right? It does not mean that since you don't have consent, you are not liable to be compliant to privacy. It does not mean that you don't have consent, so you don't care about the rights of the data subjects. Even if it's a healthcare record research happening, you are not waiting for the consent or you are not going for the consent, but you still have to ensure that restricted information is available. I mean, you can say that my healthcare record is available to the research team. For them, what is important is the parameters that they are searching on. For them, my name, my address and phone number is not important. So they should have only the health portion of the data for their research to be carried out without having my personal information, with or without my consent, right? So the research company is doing processing but without my consent, but also ensuring that my data has been taken care of. And if I go there and say, okay, I want to assess what is the information that you have, I want to get some changes done, I want to access any of my data subject rights, then that should be allowed by the processing unit. So again, LIA is also specific to a particular kind of assessment, whereas PIA is the broader view where any fiduciary is processing any data should do a PIA, but when they are processing it only for the legitimate interest, they should do the legitimate impact assessment to ensure that data subject rights and privacy is maintained even without a consent. So that's about the relationship between the three. Is a small pictorial that explains that while you can do PIA overall for the organization, for specific areas, specific projects, high risk sensitive things, do a DPIA, legitimate interest, do a LIA, the legitimate impact assessment, and transfer impact assessment do only when you have to transfer your data across the border. So that's about the relationship between the four types of privacy impact assessments we have. I hope you like the content of my video. Please press the bell and the like icon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and share your feedback in the comment section. Thank you.